Hi there, it is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, TV Network, iTunes 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, around the world. So this is interesting because obviously Danielle is in Portugal and it's late for her. And obviously, Toggo, where are you at? I don't even know where you are. You're outside the US, right?
Los Angeles, baby.
Oh, you are here. See, you never know. All right, tell us this.
That's right.
Let's talk about who you are, where you're coming from, and what happened to you.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up. Say that again one more time.
Who you are, what's going on with you, and then what happened to you with your music and everything. Where are you right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, it's Toggo Ultrarock. I am, I was born and raised in Norway, came to Hollywood when I was, 18 or something like that. I'm going to try to make a long story as short as possible, but things were going great. I had one of the most local bands in Hollywood. And then disaster struck. I was the victim of a huge scam, and so I ended up losing everything that I owned. It was like $80,000 in credit card debt. Really bizarre stuff that I actually started writing a book about because it's so strange. I surfaced in Minnesota and found out that I was the dad of a newborn kid that I had to raise by myself. So I had to step up, and then I got super mad. So I was like, you know what? Because of this, I'm a stubborn mofo. I'm gonna realize all my dreams, and so I started this like online thing. This because I've always been good at two things. I'm really good at music. I'm really good at marketing. That's the only two things that I really know how to do in life. I suck at a bunch of stuff, but those two things I don't suck at. And so I hit the marketing thing, and it exploded, and I was able to basically create the kind of life that I've always dreamed of having. Then I started, putting that into my music. I put a band together. We did a bunch of tours, released an album video, all that stuff. And then, a year or two ago, we moved back to LA. And, here I am starting to release stuff again. Super excited about the future. And that's me in a nutshell.
So you heard branding. That's what I heard, branding. What do you think about when you hear branding?
You're breaking up really bad, like half of what.
Yeah.
You are frozen.
Oh, so Danielle, what happens when you hear the word branding? How important is branding?
My mind starts to, popping ideas and, concepts. Yeah, because this is really important these days. And you find a lot of people talking about branding, and the huge majority of them have no clue about what branding is. They think that branding is about having a beautiful profile, social media profile, and beautiful, key visuals. And it's not that. Branding is much more about how people feel and consciously managing those touch points and interactions in a way that you can maximize the experience the other people have about you. This is branding about you or a company, but it's the gut feeling someone has about a company or a person. Yeah.
So Toggo, on that, talk about where you are now, because you are still so creative of what you do. It's very, very interesting in how that fan base just stayed loyal to you, even when you took off to Minnesota.
I'm sorry. Repeat the last part. You must have a really bad internet connection.
Yeah, I do here in this waiting room. Yeah. Your fan base is so loyal. Talk about how they kept in contact with you, even when you went off the radar for a while.
Well, not as much as I would like, because I was gone for a lot of years. So I had to, I still have, a lot of fans from back then, but, the most significant part of my audience is new. I had to, because when you disappear for X amount of time, we live in an instant, everything needs to happen instant in this society. And so, you know, they find new heroes, they find new music. So I had to basically start from scratch. And then I found my new audience, you know, I love Instagram. I found my new audience there. Certain countries, especially countries like Brazil and Argentina, have been absolutely amazing. I've been invited to do like, I think 2 tours there right now. So that's sort of like in the works, but it's really, really fun, you know, as I'm releasing new music, to find a new audience that is just, you know, that things are really popping. So that's exciting.
So Danielle, he talked about his audience in Brazil and Argentina, I think that's what it was, right? So she's in Portugal. You got fan members there too, don't you?
Yeah, there's a few from there too. And I know a lot.
And I'm Brazilian too. I'm Brazilian. I live in Portugal. You are very global.
That's right. And you speak Portuguese. They speak Portuguese in Brazil, right? Because exactly. I did a bunch of Skypes and interviews down there, and from what I understand, it's Brazilian.
Yeah, and they are very mind open for new artists and new things in the marketing. You know, Brazilians are very open mind for the new artists.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I noticed that. I love how they are, both them and the Argentinians. Very warm, you know, very open.
Talk about your music today. Where do you think your writing is? What do you think the music is today? And how do you see the new audience out there with this pandemic?
I mean, the music for me doesn't really change, you know, like from the stuff that I wrote 10 years ago to the stuff that I write now. It evolves though. You know, I've always been a pop guy at heart, but at the same time, I'm also a rocker, you know, so my stuff, you know, like my heroes are like Steven Tyler. It's like a combination of Steven Tyler, Freddie Mercury, and Johnny Rotten, you know, because I love what each brings to the, you know, to the scene. And so my music is sort of a blend of all that stuff. Now, your second question, I don't know if I understood exactly what you meant by that, you know, in conjunction with the pandemic.
What were you doing during the pandemic? Were you writing more? Were you just taking care of your, you know, being that family guy now?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. No, I was definitely writing more. I got a lot of stuff done. I went to the studio. You know, the track that I just released, I have another track that's fully produced, ready to go, which is going to be released after we're done with the promo for this. And then after that, I have another one. So, you know, I think just like with a lot of other artists, it was a time of growth and a time of happening.
Wow. When do you feel most inspired to write your own music?
I think historically it's been when my heart has been broken. You know, that's like when I've come up with my absolute best material. But sometimes inspiration will just strike from left field. You know, a lot of people, when they ask, what are your influences? You know, even though I cited those 3, my main influence can be something I hear on the radio. Like one of my songs, which I think is one of my best songs, I heard a commercial jingle, and I go, oh my God. And then this whole thing opens for me. And then I try that out. Or I can watch a movie and there's a 5-second segment in the movie where someone's on the bus and I hear something in the background, and like that makes me explode with creativity. So it's always random, you know.
Thank you.
Talk about being in the Midwest, coming from overseas, but in Minnesota. What did that do for you? Did it remind you of home?
Yeah, you know, well, especially since Minnesota is like, I think like 95% of Minnesota are Norwegian, you know, and so it was a trip, you know, because I spent most of my life in LA, and then moving out there, it was kind of like living in Norway again, you know, like a lot of the food things and the habits and even the way people look, you know, everyone's blonde and blue-eyed, and, you know, so it was trippy. But what I like about Minnesota is they're very, very, and they have that in common with the Norwegians. They're very humble, you know, very humble, very sweet. Whether you go to a restaurant and it's a waitress, or you meet someone new, you know, LA, I love LA too. People, there's, you know, LA, New York, there's a certain jadedness and, you know, and harshness that, that you see with people that you don't see in Minnesota. And I thought that was amazing.
Do you think it's easier to become successful in foreign foreign land or in your own country? Let's say like this.
I think that when it comes to, you know, if that question had been asked maybe like 30 years ago, I would probably say it's easier in your own country. But it's 2021, you know, everything is online. And you see the people who succeed the most aren't just the people with talent. You know, you can have that, you can be the most talented guy on the planet and you can write songs that are just undeniable hit songs, and you may never make it because you don't have the drive. The artists that have made it the last 10, 20 years, for the most part, I'm going to say 90% are people who have a combination of, they have a lot of talent. Sometimes they don't have a lot of talent at all, but they have this crazy drive and they push and it goes through, you know. A guy like Justin Bieber, for instance, not that I'm a fan of him, you know, but if it wasn't for the internet, you know, he never would have been anything, you know. He just hit him, and I guess his mom just kept blasting out videos, you know. So I think it's the people who have the balls to keep creating content, keep being out there. You know, you're going to get rejected over and over and over, but who gives? And of course, if you have a crap load of talent, you know, the fame is that much bigger.
Awesome.
What do you miss about that 80s rock? Do you miss the whiskey? Do you miss the Viper? Do you miss the, you know, everything there in that heyday in Sunset?
I don't know. I wasn't there in the heyday on Sunset. So, but, you know, I mean, it seems like very, very cool. I'll tell you this, though. I was there like in, you know, in the early 2000s. And that was a resurgence of the 80s scene. It was really, really amazing. You know, Sunset Strip flooded with people, you know, guys, you know, girls, whatever, handing off flyers, you know, and then the sort of like the glam had a resurgence. So I love that's, I think that's like my favorite era of my whole life, from anywhere from 2001 to about 2005, because, you know, from what I understand, that was like a mini version of the 80s.
You were. That's why I said that. I think your music, your look, and everything coincide what was going on there at that point.
Yeah. No, I'm, you know, and I'll be the first to admit, you know, like both, I think both my look, you know, and then some of my music is, you know, like I love the early to mid 2000s, you know, and, you know, I've had some executives, you know, listen to my stuff and go, you know what, this is really good stuff. This can hit big, but you need to change your image. But, you know, I'm like, nah, life's too short. You know, you know, and the whole sellout thing doesn't really work for me. You know, you got to be true to who you are, because, you know, if you succeed, you know, all the more power to you. But like, if you sell out and then you don't succeed, you know, that's really sucky.
You know, I tell this all the time to my clients, that you cannot sustain a fake version of yourself for much longer. You can even appear once, you know, and everything's okay, but you cannot sustain something that doesn't ring true for you for much longer. And staying true to yourself is, I think that it's one of the most important things in every career, artistic or non-artistic. And this is great.
No, it's really true, and not just about your look either. You know, I've watched a lot of documentaries and seen a lot of interviews of people who have made it huge, you know, and what they all have in common, you know, Paul McCartney, the Beatles, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Led Zeppelin, you know, all of them, they had this one thing in common. They didn't think they were going to make it because they thought their music was just so out there. I remember Paul McCartney, he was talking about, they were, you know, they wrote this song and they thought it was, there's no way it's going to make it, but they didn't really give a shit because they just wanted to be them. Exactly. They just wanted to be whatever they were. That's when this stuff gets big, you know, not when you sit there and try to go, okay, I'm going to look like this and then I'm going to write like this, so I'll get a single on the radio. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, exactly.
So we just had Charlie Watts pass away from the Rolling Stones. Were you a Rolling Stones fan? I mean, but when you move,
I'm sorry,
say like that, that's great. It's not good.
Brett,
you're breaking up again.
I said, we just had Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones pass away. When we lose an icon like that, what goes through your memory?
Did you say when you lose an icon like that, what goes through your head?
Yes.
You know, what goes through my head is, and it happens every time, is that life is short. You know, it is so short, and you don't know when your number's up. You know, a rock could, I don't know, the ceiling could cave in and I could die in a second, or I could live out a natural life, you know, which I think kind of brings us back to what we were talking about a second ago, you know, how important it is to just stay authentic to yourself, you know, do what makes you happy, look how you make, you know, look the way that makes you happy, sound the way that makes you happy, do what makes you happy, you know, live out loud, live the kind of life that, you know, that you love, that you want, you know, because at any point it could be over. And then what was the point then? If you tried to sell out, try to please others, you know, I think that's why I look the way I look, and I sound a little different, because I want to live my life according to me, so that when my number is up, you know, I can be proud and happy about what I did.
So when you hear the song Hotel California, what goes through your mind?
Well, Hotel California is about the weird thing that happens when you move, especially, you know, this really should be called Hotel LA. When you move to LA, you know, and there's a lot of negative things that can be said about it, but the song is written about, you know, how it gets to you. And once you're there, you never really, you know, you can check out anytime you're lying, but you can never leave. There's, you know, it works like that. I have so many people who have lived in LA, you know, like back in the early 2000s, and who are now back in Texas, Norway, Sweden, wherever they are. And they all keep dreaming about LA, and they never stop talking about it, how they want to go back. I don't know what it is, you know, but that's what Hotel California, that's what the song is about. And that's what it is for me too. You know, like my whole time in Minnesota, I loved it, but I always missed LA. And then now that I'm back, it's
I think he's frozen.
Oh, he's frozen again?
He's being about creativity and artistic, I don't know. Do you think that it's about resonating with the mindset of the people who go there?
Yeah, it's about that, but it's about so many more things, you know, because there's so many things to like in the city. First, you have the climate, you know, I mean, it's absolutely, to me, this is the most perfect climate on the planet, because like in the summer, it's nice and hot. It never gets humid and sticky. In the winter, you know, it doesn't get cold, not a lot of mosquitoes, you know, like Florida, it's just muggy and they have flying cockroaches and alligators. You know, the climate is perfect. You know, like where I live, I live in the valley by Calabasas, you know, take a 20-minute drive and I'm in Malibu, you know, a 25-minute drive, I'm in Hollywood, you know, and like 2 hours away from the snow. And then you have the fact that there's a buzz about the city. There's, you know, like you said, it's full of creatives. It's full of people who are sometimes a little too jaded for their own good, but it's a very you know, and it pushes you, you know, it's the perfect, this is why everyone comes to LA to make it, because there's this energy that, you know, that, and the thing is, you know, it chews you up and spits you out and it gets rid of a lot of people. You know, it's a brutal place to be if you don't have the stamina for it, you know. But I think that's what makes it so hard to leave, even for people who are not in the entertainment industry. It's just, I don't know, the climate, how available everything is. And I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
When did you know you made it? Was it a defining moment that you knew that you just made it?
Well, there's making it. I still haven't made it in music. You know, I still haven't fulfilled my ambitions with music. You know, I'm still not an artist that, if you say Toggo Ultrarock, most people in the world, you know, don't know who that is. Yeah, I have a faithful fan base, but, you know, I'm still working on that, and I will not, you know, my soul will be unrestful until that happens. I'm not going to stop until that happens. Now, the making it part is, you know, I ironically, I did create the things that rock stars get when they make it. You know, I have the wealth, I have the Lamborghini, I have the mansion, I have the whole 9 yards because I worked so hard for it. But, you know, when I moved to Minnesota and I was told that you have to raise a kid and all that stuff, I was flat broke, and I failed every single day for 7 years, flat broke. Everyone told me to cut my hair and get my job. I'm being irresponsible, and come on, you're a dad, and, you know, but I refused to listen. You know, I'm really stubborn. And so one day in 2012, December 13th, 2012, I woke up and my life was changed, because 7 years of struggle and just stubbornly pursuing something that I refused to believe wouldn't happen, happened. And then from there on, I had figured it out, and then it was easy. And, you know, and that's, you know, I didn't know that I had made it at that point, because I didn't know if it was a fluke and the other shoe was going to drop. But then I kept repeating it, you know, and then within a year, I knew, okay, I got this.
What would be your greatest, one piece of advice for people who have been perhaps in similar situation, that they are passing from something in their lives, like, okay, I hit the rock bottom. If you could give a piece of advice for these people to not give up and to focus on something that would make them to grow again, what would be that you know, that word of encouragement?
Okay, no, that's easy. You know, things didn't really change for me until I started thinking, you know, completely differently. You know, you've probably heard a lot of people talk about, you know, you create your own reality, the law of attraction, positive thinking, all that stuff. I'm huge into that, you know, and if you look at every successful person on the planet, they're huge. You know, as a matter of fact, yesterday I watched the documentary about David Geffen, very inspirational. He's a guy that just changed Hollywood. You know, he's got a net worth of $7 billion, you know, and he has just created so many things that most people are impossible. And the whole thing starts off by saying, I'm going to misquote it a little bit, but he says, I believe that each person, through who they are from their born to their struggles, we are a figment of our own imagination. We create ourselves to be. You can create anything you want. And he goes, the problem is a lot of people don't have enough imagination. And that's what I believe. And that's when things started changing for me. Anything from focusing on gratitude. You know, I spend a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes at night just focusing on I'm grateful for, and that it pulls me up. And all of a sudden in life, I start noticing things I wouldn't notice before. I strike up conversations with people I normally wouldn't, which can lead to a connection, which can lead to this, to that. When I have a goal, I'll sit down, you know, I'll put on like some meditative music, and I will visualize what I want over and over and over and over until it happens. And now, again, if you look at anyone who's successful, anywhere from Bill Gates to Nikki Sixx to Michael Jackson, you know, they all do this. A lot of them aren't aware that they do it because it's natural for them. You know, it was never natural for me. I had to struggle and I had to come to that realization, but everyone who's successful does this. So that's the advice that I would do. Stop focusing completely on what's going on right now and what's happened. It doesn't matter. That was created out of your imagination, you know, and you get to decide how is your life going to be now based on your thoughts and your feelings from this moment forth, and you get to choose that.
Amazing.
You know, that David Geffen documentary is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
Right? Yeah.
What are some of the songs that you want audience members who may not know who you are, what should they listen to?
I think the one that always goes as number one is Cannonball. You know, people have a love for that. I say second, you know, since I released my new single, Creepy Wonderwall, people are kind of flipping out on that too. So that's currently the most listened to one on Spotify. But it's those three songs, you know, Cannonball, Monday Morning, and Creepy Wonderwall that everyone wants to listen to, that, you know, that are into my stuff.
We got about 5 minutes left. What is your take on the way social media is done now with Spotify or Pandora or Amazon Music, Apple? What's your take on that?
Okay, so let me make sure that I'm answering correctly, because first you said social media, and then you said all the channels. You talking about social media, or you're just talking about the way that music is just distributed digitally these days?
Both.
Okay. I love it. You know, I have a lot of friends and a lot of musicians. They mope and grind about the current, you can't make money from albums anymore, and CDs are gone, and it's all going down the shitter. And I look at it completely differently. I think it's a freaking miracle, you know, because never before in history has an independent musician had the chance that he has right now to make it. You know, obviously you got to kick some ass promoting yourself online, but you know, there is no other time in history when anyone can actually make it. You know, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, you know, you had to go through the needle's eye of a big record company. You don't have to anymore. You can look exactly how you want to. You can, you know, you can dress exactly, you can sound, you know, and there's so many new artists from, God, what's the name? I always forget the name of that girl. You know, that Australian girl that just blew up with that soft, weird sound. What's her name?
Nightbird? No.
What's that?
Nightbird? No.
No. I always forget. Anyway, she's like the biggest artist on the planet. I think someone like her would have never made it, because, you know, it was just her and her brother in their basement producing stuff. And the first time I heard of this, it's so out of left field. It's so different, you know, that, you know, I don't think it would have made it, but today you can. So I think it's a miracle that everything has gone digital.
So give you social media links. And what inspiration would you say to these new musicians coming up who may look to you? What would you say?
I'm sorry, what was the last question?
Give you social media links, and then what words of inspiration would you say to these new people coming up in the music world today? Did I lose you?
Again, images, Google me, Toggo, Toggo Ultrarock, and then, you know, my Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, everything, you know, everything pulls up. Did you, Daniel, did you get what the last question was? Because he's still frozen.
Like yeah. He's in under an aquarium.
Oh, okay, we're back. I'm going to say social media. You know, it's obviously important to, you know, the things that I said about visualization, focusing, being grateful, all those things that make you a happier person, that attracts the right situations. But when it comes to social media, it's very important to be consistent. You know, I'm not that great across all platforms like Facebook. I really suck at Facebook. You know, I'm pretty decent at. So to answer that to up and coming musicians, is just to be consistent, you know, release content and just pour your gut out, release who you truly are. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be cool. Just be yourself, because that's always, you know, the content that engages the most. I find the stuff that I share when I'm being authentic and just being myself and not trying to look cool.
And search for quality over quantity. It's important too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Always quality over quantity.
Well, I have to apologize on connection on my end. I found out anytime I do an interview in the studio at this time, I get bad service. In the morning, it's okay. So I got to thank you guys for this. And as I would say, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours, because the world needs it. Toggo, Danielle, thank you so much. And we will see you next.
Peace.